future science, high rocket science, which is not available. The technology in principle is already there. We can improve all these technologies, and we will do so year by year, but in general, the concept is very clear. But for sure, there are also challenges to be tackled. We have to deal with the fluctuating electricity. We have to further work on solutions. Biomass will be used, but it has to be provided on a sustainable way. This is very important. At the beginning, renewables needs a higher investment, and so we have to deal with the problem to finance these costs. Role of nuclear and fossil power has to be decided by the governments, and governing that transformation is very important. I want to say and underline that again. It's a question of policy to decide the goal and decide the necessary measures to make that happen. And what we also need and will see is new business models, because if the energy world is changing, also new business models are necessary to attract private investments into that sector and make that happen. So these are some of the main topics which are there in that field. I want to come to the smart energy cities, because cities and regions are very important to make the transformation happen. Why is it so important? 75% of greenhouse gas emissions are produced in cities and communities, and a lot of these transformation measures I already mentioned must be realized on local level. So an active contribution of the citizens is necessary, of the industry, the public sector, because they have to invest in energy efficiency and in renewable energy. They have to change the type of mobility and use public transport, and they have to change perhaps also their behavior and accept the changes. So it's important to talk to the people and convince the people and motivate the people to also support this transformation and be an active part of that. And since we are more working on local level in the past, we developed a concept how now such a local energy system based on renewable energy could look like. And I want to show you here the principal concept of a local regional energy system based on 100% renewable energies. So what you see here is, this is the electricity grid, for sure in every city. On the left-hand side, you see here the generation. On the right-hand side, you see the consumer. And in the between, there's the distributor and grid operator. And we have sources, wind, photovoltaic, hydropower, and here the electricity demand. We also see in a lot of cities, for sure in Central Europe, it's a little bit different because we have also high room heating demand, space heating demand in wintertime. So we have partly heat networks, which can be heated with solar heat and geothermal, and buildings which are connected to that heat network. But we have also a lot of buildings which are not connected to the grid, to the heat network, and so they have own heat sources like heat pumps, electric heat pump, gas heat pumps, combined heat and power plants, perhaps also wood stoves, and solar thermal with storage. So this is the principal concept, which is already established today. But what we see in the future more and more is that the electricity grid will be connected to the heat network by heat pumps, either here on local level, on the building level, but also on the distributor level. What we see is that photovoltaic is more and more installed on the buildings, and also in Germany we have now a subsidy program which is providing subsidies to install batteries on building level in connection to the photovoltaic plants in order to shift a little bit of the solar electricity from during the day towards the night. But electricity storage will be also, short-time storage capacities will be installed also on distributor and grid operator level. What we will see is that electric vehicles will be charged on the building level, but also here on the distribution grid level, and this will also influence the demand curve here on the electricity grid. We will install more solar thermal systems with storage here either on the building level, but also what we see in the future is heat storage on a seasonal level. This means heating up these huge storage tanks with several thousand of cubic meters of hot water during summertime by solar energy, and this can be used in wintertime for space heating. What we see is we have already a gas network, a natural gas network, and this can be transformed or used in future to transport biogas, and so biogas will be available to run here combined heat and power plants or heat pumps, gas heat pumps, and this will also added here, biomass can be also used as wood for wood stoves here in the buildings. But if we have this biogas network, we can also use that for centralized combined heat and power plants, which are providing heat and electricity. We can use it for heat pumps and also for combined heat and power plants here on these bigger buildings. This could be an industry plant, this could be also a shopping mall and something else. But what is also a very good thing is that we have gas storage already installed in Germany on a gas grid. And so this can help us to have to provide a seasonal storage for renewable energy, especially in northern-oriented countries like in Central and Northern Europe. We need a seasonal storage because in wintertime we have only less solar electricity or solar energy available, and wind is sometimes not blowing, and so we have to add also some seasonal storage in northern-oriented countries. And the gas storage is already available. We already store gas, natural gas today. In future we could store biogas. And if we are in a situation that wind and photovoltaic is installed in a very high amount with high capacities, we have sometimes excess electricity from photovoltaic and from wind. And so what we can do is we can use an electrolyzer to generate hydrogen. This hydrogen can be directly used in cars to drive, or it can be directly fed into the gas network. Today it is allowed to feed in about 5% of hydrogen in a typical natural gas network, or we can do the methanization with CO2 and generate methane and use that into the gas network. So this is the connection between the electricity grid and the gas network. And for sure, if you look on such a system on a city level, a city cannot, or at least a large city cannot be provided and supplied with energy which is only generated within the city, so it will be connected to the region. And for sure, it's not our goal to disconnect the cities from the grid. We will have a connection and we will have some import and export, but we will first use the potential we have in the city, and then we will import and export the electricity. So what I wanted to show to you here, this is this general description of the energy system of the future. First of all, only renewable energy will work. It's possible to create an energy system which is only driven by renewable energies. And secondly, what we will see in the future is that the electricity, the heating network and the gas network will be working much more closer together and will be much more connected to each other. Also, the transport sector will be much more connected to the electricity sector. So, and this leads to the point that we have to find intelligent systems and ways to design and run this kind of systems, because it is much more connected, and we have to deal with the fluctuations as well. So this is a principle behind, and this is the direction in which we are working. So the characteristics, to summarize that, of that kind of systems, we will see an increased regional autonomy, so a decentralization. We will see an increased interdependency of energy sectors, electricity, heating, cooling, mobility. We will see an increased complexity of the system, so this needs an intelligent control concepts and strategies. And this use of smart technologies is necessary, ICT, self-optimizing subsystems. And the hierarchy of using renewables is very simple. First, use the electricity or the energy by renewables generated within the city. Then the energy which is can be imported from the region, and then, if it is not sufficient, also imported from outside the region. And this means sustainable energy system must be adapted to the specific conditions of each city and region and country. So this means if you have such systems which can be applied to every kind of city or or region, the principle is always the same, but you have to find the right adaptation to the specific conditions you have. What does this mean? How to come to such a system? This is very simple. You have to develop roadmaps. Today, if you start with today's energy system, you have to define a target energy system. So target setting is important, where you want to go to. Development of target energy systems based on the specific targets on the one hand side, and also on the assumptions for the boundary conditions. If Taiwan is thinking about the long-term development, you have to think about if electricity demand will increase or it will be reduced. What do you expect? How much efficiency increase will be possible? You have to take that into account if you want to design the target energy system. And if you have a clear picture of the future, then you can develop the transformation roadmap. Which methods are necessary, in which order, which investment costs are needed, and how to design this transformation in a robust and flexible way. So this is the roadmap development will follow in a second step. This is a principle how you come to such a concept for such a transformation process. This can only be done if you use some computers, some modeling tools. So we developed modeling tools to calculate such optimized target energy systems for cities, temporal highly resolved simulation of the electricity, heat and cold and transport systems. So you see here some examples of these calculations. The question which must be answered is, how must the energy system be designed to achieve a specific renewable energy share? Which variations of these energy systems are possible? Which generation, grid and storage capacities are necessary? How much energy import and export to the city and region is necessary? And how much investments and operation costs are there? So these are the challenges. You need that tools. We are working on that, and so we would be happy to share also our experience with the experts in Taiwan on that issue. So these are some examples. You see here the challenge in Europe. We have the high heating demand during winter time, no heat demand in summertime, only for industrial purposes and domestic hot water. But if you look on such a weekday, so you have to combine all the sources, solar and biomass and other sources. So this could be some results of such modeling tools. I want to summarize the German experience. Germany defined a target energy system for 2050 and developed milestones for 2020, 2030, 2040. In most aspects, we have a very successful development over the last years because we increased renewable energy in the electricity sector to 25% in 2030 already, due to the feed-in tariff. The grid expansion is on the way. However, due to extensive participation processes with stakeholders and citizens, the planning phase is rather long. We have a goal of 1 million electric vehicles by 2020. There are some doubts to achieve that goal, but there are also some optimistic developments. However, there are strong discussions are ongoing. For example, electricity price increased over the last years, so this is an important issue. Greenhouse gas emissions are increasing due to increased coal firing. Also, this is an issue, and efficiency is behind schedule. So there are challenges. You have to work on that, but I'm very optimistic that we will be able to achieve the goals because we have to learn how to deal with that challenges, but from my point of view, we are on a good way. I come to Taiwan and Taiwan's energy system, at least what I have learned over the last weeks on the Taiwan energy system. And first of all, I have learned about this huge import dependency, 97.8%. Energy supply is dominated by highly CO2 emitting fossil fuels, oil and coal, here on the primary energy and natural gas. Nuclear power has a share of 8% on primary energy, on 60% on electricity generation. And the share of renewables is very low at the moment, 1.9% on primary energy, 2.4% on final energy, and 4.2% on electricity generation. So there is a huge potential to change this system in the future. And I did some comparison between Japan, between Taiwan and Germany. The first comparison here is on import dependency. Japan has an import dependency in energy on 94%. It's likely the same than Taiwan with 97%, Germany 68%. So, and you see here renewables 4.2, renewables 1.9, and renewables here 10.7. In Germany, we have still energy supply, mainly coal, 20%. But what you see, the difference here in these bars, the difference is the renewables. This is the chance to reduce the import dependency. This is what renewables are providing. Secondly, final energy demand. This is reflecting the efficiency of an energy system. And for sure, in Taiwan, you have 23 million people, inhabitants. In Germany, you have 80 million. In Japan, about 120 million. So you have to compare not the overall demand here of megawatt hours. You have to compare the megawatt hours per capita. And if you compare that, you see that Japan is the most efficient country here in this comparison, followed by Germany with 30.9 megawatt hours. But Taiwan has a lot to do. You have 55 in comparison to 30 megawatt hours per capacity, per capita demand. For sure, Taiwan has a higher industry and manufacturing needs. But still, there is a huge potential which shows that the energy system in Taiwan can be improved, can become more efficient. And last but not least, this is the electricity generation distribution. You see, it's quite similar here. Taiwan and Germany today or last year, 15–16% nuclear power, coal 44–46%, and then Taiwan has about 28%, Germany only 10% gas usage, and the big difference here is again renewables. Japan has a very specific situation.